You're watching Coronavirus in Context. I'm Dr. John Whyte, Chief Medical Officer at WebMD. Here's a staggering statistic for you. There are almost as many Black men in medical school today that there were 50 years ago. And how does this impact the delivery of care, especially during a pandemic? I read this editorial recently in the Washington Post by our guest today, Dr. Arturo Holmes II. He's a urology resident at SUNY Downstate. Dr. Holmes, thanks for joining me.
Thank you guys for having me.
You know, we've been addressing this issue of racial injustice, disparities at WebMD and Medscape. And I wanted you to tell your story. And I want to read a line that I was fascinated by. Again, it's in the Washington Post, and you say, "I'm a Black doctor. I wear my scrubs everywhere now, seeking to preemptively exonerate my Blackness with my professional garb." That's a powerful statement. What do you mean by that?
So as we've seen in events that have really shaken the country, there's a lot of unrest, especially concerning the treatment of Black people, Black Americans in terms, in relation to law enforcement. No one should feel the need to wear scrubs anywhere or wear any sort of professional apparel to protect themselves or be treated, humanely in America.
You're not supposed to wear scrubs outside of the hospital.
So true, you shouldn't. That's definitely not what they were designed for. However, in uncertain circumstances, scrubs may be the only thing, that can remind people that you are human and that you like to be treated as such.
You tell a story how you were driving 10 miles an hour and you were stopped. Can you tell our listeners a little more about that story?
So about a year ago, I was on my way home after leaving the hospital. I was really tired that night. And I just remember driving. There was this car that was driving really slowly. I wasn't sure why they were driving slowly. It was kind of concerning to me, actually. So I resolved to go ahead and pass that vehicle. And when I did, lights came on. And I pulled over to the side of the road. The police officers, there were 4 of them in there. They stopped me, and the rest is kind of in the article. They thought that I was trying to disrespect them. It wasn't a very friendly encounter. And I was actually concerned for my own safety. At some point, during our interaction, I could just see in their eyes that it appeared like they saw me for the first time. And at that point, that's when the conversation kind of changed. And I ultimately got to go home. But, that's something that's kind of stuck with me.
Did you tell them you were a doctor?
I did not tell them I was a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I had on scrubs though, so they could see and they recognized that. So
you say, "Still I wear scrubs. I wear scrubs hoping that they'll serve as a reminder, just enough to give pause, forcing those who would judge or harm me because of my skin color to reconsider." Do scrubs give you a different identity?
So scrubs don't change who I am. Scrubs may change people's perception of me. When I see my friends, when I see people I know, whether those folks are patients or, family members or acquaintances, I have a rapport. They know who I am. I'm generally known as a fairly nice guy. But when I see new people, there's this question, especially depending on the environment and the circumstance. Like I highlighted in that essay, people may assume that I'm not a nice guy or I mean ill, when that is not the case at all. Scrubs, when I wear scrubs, however, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all.
Why'd you write the essay? Residents are pretty busy. You got a lot already on your plate. It takes a long time to craft an article. Why'd you feel the need to write this?
In residency, we have weekly didactics, we have weekly conference. And since COVID started, we've had wellness check-ins at the start of conference each week. After the passing of George Floyd, it was brought to my attention that we'd be discussing him in conference one day, actually the next day. And I became aware that I would be the only Black resident at that meeting. And I felt particularly compelled to share my perspective. When I shared it, a lot of my co-residents responded favorably. Actually, they became somewhat emotional and felt adamantly that I should share this with others through publication. I wasn't initially going to publish it. I just used it as an opportunity to kind of organize my thoughts. But after kind of seeing their reaction and hearing how they felt, I thought, well, maybe I need to share this with other people.
There are very few men of color in medical school. Tell us your journey to becoming a physician and your thoughts on how we might get more Black men into medical school.
That's an excellent question. So I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I went to the Walker School in Marietta, Georgia, undergrad at Mercer University, and medical school in Meharry Medical College. I'm currently a resident here at SUNY Downstate. Going through, kind of matriculating through the education system is challenging for everyone, but there are struggles unique to being someone of African descent. When you are interested in the sciences, as I was, or am rather, you may go to classrooms and not see a lot of people like you. There are less teachers that look like you, that are familiar with sort of the struggles that you face on a day-to-day basis. Growing up, I had an African-American pediatrician. I just remember always going to see her and how warm it felt to be in her presence and how she understood me. And that's something that I definitely want to share with other people.
Did you have mentors, role models?
Yes. One of the most important mentors to me has been Dr. Kelvin Moses at Vanderbilt. I met him during my time at Meharry Medical College. Kind of the way that he sees the world and interacts with students and teaches really impressed me. I always reach out to Moses when I have to think about important decisions, especially when they concern medicine.
What advice do you have for young Black men, those that might want to be going to medical school, maybe something different, engineering, law school? What can you tell them?
I tell them that there is a place for you. Not only is there a place for you, but we need you. Everyone needs you, not just your communities. People tend to think that that prejudice is, something that's limited to socioeconomic statuses or education levels or what people's intentions are, but that's not the case. And the only way to kind of show everyone or to kind of communicate that is through action and to move forward and to accomplish things and to push forward and contribute.
Has COVID exposed these biases and disparities?
COVID has definitely highlighted, health disparities as far as, the disproportionate impact it's had on African-American communities. But the thing is, these things have always existed. These aren't new phenomena.
Well, Dr. Holmes, I want to thank you for sharing your insights and the courage to tell your story. We need to hear more of these stories to help bring about change.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.